Right, ready to break down Aston Villa's big win over Chelsea, 2-1. We're going deep on the tactics and spotlighting the players who made that comeback happen.
Yeah, it was a wild one for sure.
Let's start with the formations, because on paper, they look pretty similar, right? Villa's 4-2-3-1 really focused on stretching the field.
Right, they were looking for that width in Chelsea. Well, they also came out in a 4-2-3-1. But their focus seemed to be more about locking down the midfield, that strong defensive presence.
And initially, you got to admit, Chelsea's plan was working.
Absolutely. I mean, they took control early, dominated the midfield.
And boom, Enzo Fernandez puts them ahead.
He's really coming into his own offensively, isn't he? That goal showed his ability to read the play and just pounce on any opportunity he gets.
And you can't ignore Moises Caicedo.
Oh, man, he was everywhere, breaking up Villa's attacks, distributing the ball like it was nothing. Honestly, his defensive work rate was a thing of beauty. I mean, at that point, it felt like Chelsea had the game in their pocket.
Chelsea scores first, controls the midfield. Honestly, Villa's attack looked lost out there.
Yeah, they just couldn't seem to find any space.
But then the second half starts, and it's like a completely different game.
Right, like someone flipped a switch.
What happened? What changed the momentum?
One word. Rashford. Unai Emery brings him on at halftime, and suddenly Villa has the speed and energy they were missing in the first half.
Talk about a game changer. It was like a shot of adrenaline straight into Villa's attack. And Chelsea's defense, well, they looked completely caught off guard.
Rashford's pace and directness on that left flank totally disrupted Chelsea's structure. And then Marco Asensio, who you barely saw in the first half, comes alive and scores not one, but 2 goals.
And those were some beautiful goals. That first one, a smooth, clinical finish from a low cross by, you guessed it, Rashford.
Right, and everyone's holding their breath waiting for VAR to confirm.
Exactly. And the second goal, just incredible. A perfectly timed volley, again set up by Rashford, and it slips right under Chelsea keeper Philip Jurgensen.
That second goal, though, Jurgensen probably could have done better there. It does raise some questions about Chelsea's goalkeeper situation. It hasn't been exactly rock solid this season, has it?
No, it's been a bit of a recurring issue. Maybe they need to consider some other options or find a way to help Jurgensen get that confidence back.
Definitely something to think about.
But back to Villa. 2 goals from Asensio, both assisted by Rashford. This dynamic duo single-handedly turned the game around. And Unai Emery. Genius.
Bringing on Rashford at halftime was a bold move, and it paid off big time. He saw that Chelsea was vulnerable on the flanks, especially with Reece James playing more centrally in the midfield.
That was a gamble by Maresca, wasn't it? Playing James in midfield, let them a bit exposed out wide, especially after losing Trevoh Chalobah early on to injury.
Yeah, you have to adjust your defense when that happens.
Exactly. And then Emery makes that tactical switch at halftime, and it all just unravels for Chelsea.
It's easy to judge in hindsight, but Maresca's probably thinking he could control the tempo by having James in there.
Yeah, makes sense.
But then the injury, Emery's subs, and it all went sideways.
It really does make you think, though, doesn't it? What if Chalobah hadn't gotten injured? Would James have stayed in the midfield? Would the outcome have been different?
So many possibilities. That's what's so great about football, though.
Absolutely. Every decision, every substitution, it all has a ripple effect. This match really proves that one substitution can be the difference between winning and losing.
Yeah, sometimes it's that one move that changes everything. In this case, it worked in Emery's favor. Maresca. Well, those initial decisions made sense at the time, but things just didn't go his way.
And it really highlights that tactical battle between managers, right? Always trying to outsmart each other.
Every match is like a game of chess, constantly adapting to the opponent's moves. This one was definitely a masterclass from Emery.
All right, let's look ahead now. Starting with Aston Villa, you have to admit, that partnership between Rashford and Asensio, it's electric. Arguably one of the most exciting attacking duos in the league right now. 2 goals in just 45 minutes. Come on.
That chemistry was undeniable.
Yeah.
They were on the same wavelength, practically reading each other's minds. Emery's got to be considering starting them together next match, right?
I'd love to see what they can do with more time on the pitch together. It's scary to think about, honestly. But what about Chelsea? Where do they go from here? This loss has to sting.
Well, they have some work to do, that's for sure. First things first, they need to fix those defensive issues, especially on the flanks. Teams are starting to figure out that if you isolate their fullbacks and hit them with pace, you can create real danger.
The blueprint for success against Chelsea right now.
It seems to be. And then there's the whole goalkeeper situation. We talked about Jurgensen's inconsistency. Chelsea needs to either find a new keeper or find a way to rebuild his confidence.
So, yeah, Reska's got a lot to think about. Defensive adjustments and maybe a change in goal. It's a tough spot to be in.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But that's what makes football so great. It's unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen next. Keeps us all on the edge of our seats.
Before we move on, though, got to talk about some of the individual performances. I mean, even in a losing effort, Moises Caicedo was incredible in that Chelsea midfield.
Oh, absolutely. He was all over the pitch, breaking up Villa's attacks, winning tackles, and his distribution was spot on. A real masterclass in defensive midfield play. He was a bright spot for Chelsea on a day when, well, they just weren't clicking as a team.
Every time Villa tried to go through the middle, Caicedo was there to shut it down, like a brick wall.
He's becoming one of the best defensive midfielders in the league, and he's still so young. The consistency, the work rate, it's just phenomenal. No wonder Chelsea wanted him so badly.
And for Villa, I was really impressed with John McGinn. He doesn't always get the headlines, but he's so important, that Villa midfield, the engine that keeps them going.
Absolutely. McGinn covers so much ground, connecting the defense and attack. He's always where he needs to be. Any manager would be thrilled to have a player like him on their team.
And his partnership with Yuri Tielemans, it's really starting to click. They complement each other so well. Tielemans with his passing range and vision, and McGinn with his energy and tenacity. What a duo.
They can control a game, that's for sure. And that's what Villa needs if they're serious about pushing for a European spot this season. They've got the attacking power. Now they're starting to show that midfield stability to match it.
So much to unpack from this match. So what are the key takeaways? What does this result tell us about both these teams?
Well, for Villa, this is about momentum. They beat one of the best teams in the league, proving they can hang with anyone. This should give them a huge boost for the rest of the season.
And for Chelsea,
Yeah.
it's a reality check. They've got to fix their defensive issues, find their confidence again, and be more consistent if they want to stay in the race for the Champions League spots. The talent is there, but they need to make it work.
It goes beyond just tactics. Chelsea seemed to lose their composure after Villa tied it up. They need to find that winning mentality again, that edge that made them champions.
I noticed a real contrast in the managers, too. Emery was animated, passionate, constantly pushing his players. Maresca seemed more subdued, almost resigned in that second half.
That's an interesting observation. A manager's attitude can definitely rub off on the players. Emery's energy seemed to transfer to his team, while Maresca's frustration might have added to Chelsea's struggles.
It's like Emery's changes gave Villa new life, while Maresca's substitutions felt more like damage control.
Exactly. One was proactive, looking to win the game. The other was reactive, trying to stop the bleeding. Really says a lot about their approaches, doesn't it?
And let's not forget the fans. Villa Park was rocking, especially after those goals started going in. You could feel how much this win meant to them.
The crowd definitely played a role in Villa's comeback. It's amazing how much a passionate home crowd can affect a game. It lifts the players, puts pressure on the opponent.
Villa were feeding off that energy, and Chelsea, well, it felt like they wilted under the pressure. It's a reminder that football's not just physical, it's mental too.
Sometimes the team with more belief, that louder support, they can overcome anything. Home advantage is real.
We've covered so much. Tactics, key moments, even the psychology of the game. But what about the bigger picture? What does this result mean for the entire Premier League?
For Villa, it's a statement. They're contenders, shaking up the top half of the table. The race for European places just got a lot more interesting.
And for Chelsea, it's a wake-up call. They need to find their form quickly or they'll be left behind. This match showed that they're not invincible, and the competition is fierce.
This is what makes the Premier League so great. Any team can beat anyone on any given day. It's anyone's game.
It keeps us coming back for more. But before we move on, we want to hear from you. What were your takeaways? What stood out to you?
What surprised you? What would you have done differently if you were the manager? Head to the comments and let's talk about it.
I think this match, even though it's just one game, it really reflects some of the bigger trends we're seeing in the Premier League right now.
Oh, interesting. How so? Well, think about it. You've got the rise of these young, exciting attackers like Rashford and Asensio. And then there's how crucial it is for managers to be flexible with their tactics, to adapt during the match. And of course, the competition at the top of the table is just getting more and more intense. It was all on display in this game.
Wow, yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about it like that. It makes you wonder about the future of both these teams. Can Aston Villa keep this up, this level of performance? Can they challenge for a European spot?
That's the big question, isn't it? They've got the attacking talent, sure, but do they have the defense, the discipline to keep it going week after week?
And Chelsea? Can they figure out their identity under Maresca? It feels like they're still trying to find their footing.
Definitely a team in transition. Maybe this loss will be a wake-up call, force them to take a good, hard look at themselves, make some tough decisions about players, about their approach. They have the talent, but it's not coming together yet.
You've hit on something there. This match really does leave us with more questions than answers. But that's what makes it so interesting, right? Like, if you were Emery, would you start Rashford and Asensio together next game? I mean, come on.
It's tempting. That kind of instant chemistry is rare. But I think maybe I'd hold back a bit, manage those expectations, keep everyone happy. The squad dynamic is important too.
Yeah, makes sense. And what about Chelsea? What would you do if you were Maresca? Stick with Jurgensen in goal, try to rebuild his confidence, or start shopping for a new keeper?
That's a tough one. I think a lot depends on what's going on behind the scenes. What does Maresca see in training? If he believes in Jurgensen, then maybe it's about working on his weaknesses and giving him some support. But if he's not convinced, well, then a change might be needed.
It's those kind of decisions, the ones that happen off the pitch, that can really make or break a team. So let's zoom back out and look at the bigger picture. This result could really shake things up in the Premier League, don't you think?
Absolutely. Villa made a statement with this win. They're not messing around. They're here to compete, and for Chelsea. It's a reminder that nobody's safe in this league. If they don't fix their problems quickly, they could fall behind in that race for the Champions League spots.
It's funny, isn't it? One team's riding high, full of confidence, while the other one's facing some tough questions. It's all part of the drama of the Premier League.
And that's why we love it. It's a roller coaster. Every match brings new challenges, new surprises. It's a constant battle.
You nailed it. This match had it all. All the things that make the Premier League so great. Tactical battles, amazing individual performances, passionate fans, the momentum swinging back and forth. It was a privilege to watch.
Couldn't agree more. But now we want to hear from you, our listener. What are your takeaways? What really stuck with you after watching this game?
Yeah. Did anything surprise you? What would you have done differently if you were Emery or Maresca? Hit us up in the comments and let's keep this conversation going. It's amazing, isn't it? We spent all this time talking about tactics, analyzing those key moments, even getting into the psychology of the match.
Yeah, really trying to understand what goes on in those players' and managers' heads.
But you know what's really cool? This one game, it tells us so much about where the Premier League is heading, like the bigger picture.
It's like a glimpse into the future almost.
Exactly. And it's not just about what happened on the pitch, but it makes you think, what's next? Can Aston Villa really keep this up? I mean, they've got that attacking force, but can they be consistent? Can they hold their own defensively week after week? That's what it takes to challenge for a European spot.
That's the challenge, isn't it? And then you look at Chelsea. Where do they go from here? They're still figuring things out under Maresca, right?
Yeah, it feels like they're still searching for their identity as a team. And maybe this loss is what they needed, a bit of a wake-up call.
Maybe it forces them to step back and really look at themselves, make some hard choices about personnel, tactic. I mean, the talent is there, but something's not clicking yet.
It's like this match just throws up so many questions. It's fascinating. So let's put you, the listener, in the manager's seat for a second. Imagine you're Emery. What do you do next? After that performance from Rashford and Asensio, do you start them both next game?
I mean, it's tempting, right? That instant connection they had, it's rare. But I think maybe I'd be a little cautious, manage expectations a bit, make sure the whole squad stays happy and motivated, maybe ease them in a little more.
Makes sense. And if you're Maresca, what about that goalkeeper situation? Do you stick with Jurgensen, hope he finds his form, or do you start looking for a new number one?
Man, those are the decisions that keep managers up at night. It's all about what's happening behind the scenes, what the manager sees day in and day out. Does he trust Jurgensen? Then maybe it's about working with him, supporting him. But if there are doubts, well, a change might be needed.
It's those behind-the-scenes decisions, those choices that we don't always see. It can have a huge impact. So let's take a step back and think about what this match means for the whole league.
Right, the big picture.
Exactly. This was a statement win for Aston Villa. They're here to play. They're a real threat. And for Chelsea, it's a sign that they can't take anything for granted. This league is ruthless. If they don't fix their issues, they could be in trouble.
The race for those Champions League spots is tight. One slip up and you're out.
And isn't it interesting how one team's on this high, full of confidence, and the other is left with these doubts, these questions? That's the beauty of the Premier League, right?
It's unpredictable. It's a battle. Every week, something new happens.
You said it. This match was a perfect example of everything that makes the Premier League so great. The tactical battles, the incredible individual skills, the passion of the fans, that constant tension, the momentum swinging back and forth. It's what keeps us coming back for more.
Absolutely. And we love diving deep into these games with you, breaking it all down.
But now it's your turn. We want to hear your thoughts, your takeaways from this match. What surprised you? What moments stood out?
What would you have done differently if you were in the manager's shoes? Let us know in the comments. We're always up for a good discussion.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep analyzing, and keep that love for the beautiful game alive.